2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. You know, when the road trips come out, every 8 years we wind up going someplace weird in the NFC that we haven't been. I love my trips to Seattle, and it really kind of took me back to the fact that, like, the last time I was there, they sort of stunk, and they didn't have a quarterback, and they didn't know from Russell Wilson, and Pete Carroll was trying to figure it all out, and I tell you what, this is going to be a different kind of trip out there. We sort of have the game of the week out in the Emerald City. I'm looking forward to getting out there, eating some food, stuff in my face, seeing some old friends, making some new friends, seeing the Who under the baseball dome on Saturday night. Jen Mueller does Jen Talk Sports. She's out of Root Sports. She has been a veteran here, and much like the rest of the Seattle media, I haven't bothered you guys much during baseball season the last couple summers, Jen. It's been a little soft around here with 108 losses, and now the Nationals are going to go to the World Series. We have to watch all that, but it is great to be visiting you. And what a football game, right? Like, really nice season on both sides, and somebody's going to get their feelings hurt on Sunday.
Well, yes, probably, but it has been fun, and the Seahawks have been off to a start that I don't know that fans have appreciated the drama that has unfolded at the end of a lot of these games, but it is tough to start 5-1. It's just the third time they've done it in franchise history, and so, look, I'll take it, and I'll try to keep it rolling, and I don't mind saying I hope the Ravens go home with the hurt feelings on Sunday.
Yeah, it's fascinating you'd say that, because you're like, you roll that stat out, 5-1, third time ever, and I'm like, yeah, they've been doing it since like 76, because I went through this with Rabel about, going back to Bruce Bochy and Rupert Jones and Jim Zorn and the beginnings of all of this stuff. That's an amazing stat, but I'll tell you what, same for us, right? Like, Cincinnati's always been a little better than us, or Pittsburgh's always been a little. We're always the team that's 4-2, chasing the 5-1, and having to win a game on the road that we have no business winning. Then we usually don't win. Then we're 2 behind. I mean, we've spent 23 years of a lot of successful football to win, but we haven't won divisions around here and hosted playoff games a whole lot. And this is the one year where it's sort of sitting there. And thank you very much for beating Cleveland the way you did, because we couldn't do it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, not the prettiest game, but the Seahawks learned a lot from a game against the Saints earlier in the season. They were able to overcome their mistakes, get back on track, and get that fourth quarter comeback that Russell Wilson's known for.
Well, for your team and where it is, I mean, you've seen this thing go from great to pretty good to, where are we, to we got to jettison some guys. We can't sign them all, to Earl Thomas with the middle finger, and now Earl's coming back, right? And Earl's coming back to find a pretty good team there, and he's got a pretty good team with a defense that needs the better version of him, quite frankly, because we don't have a whole lot of healthy guys. We're playing with guys off the street, getting 40 and 50 snaps a week from 2 weeks ago, and Josh Bynes. We've got a different kind of thing going on, but this is a big homecoming game. There's a lot of emotion in this game, right?
I would think so on Earl's part. I would think, some to the fans. I will be curious to see what the fan reaction is at CenturyLink Field, because honestly, I don't know. The Seahawks winning to start the year has kind of prevented any of the, if only we would have, right? If only we would have Earl Thomas back. If only we had Frank Clark back. It's easy to say things like that. Or Justin Coleman, who has an interception in Monday night's game. It's easy to say, oh, man, I wish we had those guys back if you weren't, winning these games. The Seahawks fans are really excited about what they've got going right now, and I don't know what Earl's response is going to be. Earl was a great part of this team. I mean, that was a dynamic group of players in the secondary. We know how Earl felt about the team last year, and I don't know if time has changed that at all, or if fresh, opportunities have changed that. I'll be curious to see, but, I think what Seahawks fans are more interested to see is what their defense looks like with Jaron Reed coming back, because he will be on the field for the first time this year, Sunday.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out Jimmy Smith, and, this is a bye week for us, right? So after this, Tom Brady's coming in, you know what I mean? So that's what we've got going on around here, and it doesn't feel like the season's in the balance because, quite frankly, and weirdly, doesn't feel like anybody's coming to catch us, right? Like, I mean, Pittsburgh with the third-string quarterback, okay. Cincinnati's nowhere. Cleveland has now been kicked around the last couple of weeks by San Francisco and then by Seattle. And I think this is a real test game for the Ravens, and in a lot of ways sort of mirror organizations, Jen. You know, you talk about that triangle of what Schneider and Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson represent. Eric DeCosta's moved into this era with Lamar Jackson, and you talk about how soon they forget Earl Thomas in the NFL, not for long. Joe Flacco, right? I mean, nobody's asking where Joe Flacco is anymore around here, and he's pretty good for a long time around here.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and I can understand that feeling of, you've got a little bit of breathing room, right? It doesn't feel like there is so much riding on every player every game. At the same time, I know for the Seahawks, man, first of all, it is a championship opportunity every week. That is what Pete Carroll preaches. But more importantly, the Niners are undefeated right now, and that is a team that I don't know if you would have looked in spring or, in voluntary mini camps, if that was the team that you would have said would contend at the top of the NFC West. The Seahawks still have a lot to do division-wise. They've got a long way. Some fans, and it's not pretty. But here's the thing. You don't want to be playing your best football in October. You really want to be playing your best football in late November and December, right? Win however you can win games now and then get everybody going so that you're on a roll at the end of the year. And I kind of think that that's what Seattle's setting up for, especially when you consider the pass rush has not been as strong as you would have expected with Ziggy Ansah and Jadeveon Clowney. You wonder how many more weeks before that just explodes because, boy, there is way too much talent there. They've gotten way too close and don't have nearly enough stats to show for it.
Jen Mueller does Root Sports and all things Seahawks. Also the founder of Talk Sporty to me. We're going to get on that in a couple of minutes as well, doing the sideline reports from Cleveland back to Seattle this week. And, going on the road into Cleveland and winning, that was a nice test game. That was sort of a signature win for the Seahawks under, in this incarnation of where they are to go to 5-1 and go home. This is a big week around there, right?
Well, it certainly is. And, when you're playing at home, you always expect that the crowd is going to bring it and that you're going to have a chance to, kind of ride that momentum a little bit. But, the Seahawks know this is a really tough part of the schedule that they're entering. No, they don't have a bye until after playing the Niners on November 11th. So you are in a really tough stretch of games. I think that game against Cleveland taught them a lot about trying to do too much, about trusting the guys that are on the field, particularly on defense. There's definitely some things that they need to shore up, but yeah, the vibe right here is good, and they can't afford to take the foot off the gas. They need to keep going and see what they got, and see how some of these young guys can keep growing.
Tell me about Russell Wilson at this point. I mean, celebrity wife and doing lots of charity work and just, kind of what you want your superstar quarterback to be, except you don't want him running into linebackers. And this is obviously something with Lamar Jackson where he ran the ball 19 times last week. They were winning games earlier where he didn't have to run the football. As I said, Tom Brady's around the corner. We got to play San Francisco. We got to play Deshaun Watson. There's going to have to be points scored, which is probably going to involve his feet. I know this has been an issue for Russell Wilson, especially when Ndamukong Suh's stepping on him, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's been so much of an issue. I think that Russell is very athletic, and what we have seen is in the last couple of years, he has been more judicious in taking those risks. Yes, he can run, but quite honestly, when you've got a guy like Chris Carson who can run the ball the way that he's been running with 3 straight games going over 100 yards, Russ doesn't have to. We've seen him pick and choose, and I would say early in the season. So the first couple of weeks, he wasn't running very much, and you kind of wonder, well, what's going on? Is there something there? Are they holding him back? What's happening? And then you've seen in the last 2 to 3 games, he has picked his spots. He has picked up key first downs. He knows how to protect himself, how to get out of the way. He's more likely to be hit in the backfield, quite honestly, trying to get that ball away at the last second than he is actually running. He does a pretty good job of getting down and staying out of harm's way. But what you really need is for him to pick his spots so that still works. Otherwise, that RPO and that play fake option, it just doesn't work as well if you're not, thinking that Russell Wilson is ever going to run the ball. They've got a nice mix, and I would say the number that sums him up right now, it's not the number of rushing yards. It's the fact that he's thrown 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That is the best touchdown to interception ratio of not just any quarterback this year, but since the 1950s. So he is doing a phenomenal job. It amazes me that this is finally what it takes to get considered an MVP candidate. People saying, oh, he's finally an MVP candidate. No, he's always been in the upper echelon with some of these numbers. This is the year you're starting to pay attention because some of those other big names that have been a little bit flashier haven't performed the same way.
The energy that comes with Pete Carroll, I think it goes without saying. He did my radio show like 20 years ago when I was on Sporting News Radio. I found all the old tapes. It was between his employment in the NFL and USC, and he was doing national radio, and I had never really met him. I've only met him one time since then and shook his hand and just said hello, and he said, it was a nice little greeting or whatever. But when I think about people that, you could be around over the last 10 years on a football field. I've been around John Harbaugh. There's a different kind of energy with John. But Pete, doing it all these years later, second go-around, after college, after winning, proving his point, getting his ring and all that, there's a fire about him that I think you can see just from afar on the sidelines, even in Cleveland a couple days ago, that burns with him. And the same thing with Harbaugh, where this time last year, things weren't looking good for John. John might have been out in the market looking for another job, and yet the Ravens kept him in. That stability and that sort of constant energy is good for a building, good for an organization.
Yeah, and Pete is truly like that every single time you see him. It is not just what it looks like on the field. He is like that every day in practice. He is like that getting on the bus. He is like that on the plane. He is very consistent in that energy. He loves ball, but, I think more importantly, he loves the people that he's around. And that is John Schneider, the GM. That's the guys that he has in the locker room. That's the staff that he has put together, that he coaches with. He really loves pouring into people. He loves getting the most out of them. He loves being strategic in how that's going to happen and having that all play out on the football field. And it makes a big difference. You're right. The minute you walk into that building, it is a different feel. It is a top-down. Everybody looks at things rather optimistically. There is an energy, even if it's just a normal Wednesday practice. And, yeah, Pete makes a big difference. And Pete's philosophy, look, I know that there were plenty of doubters. I was actually one of those when he came back to the NFL thinking, there is no way this strategy is going to work long term. And
they said that to Dick Vermeil.
Pete has found a way to make it work, and you would never know that he was the oldest coach in the NFL.
Jen Mueller joining us here. She's at Root Sports out in Seattle, where I'm getting out there on Saturday night. It'll be me, Roger, Pete, the Who, doing it all up, grabbing some beverages out there, probably some caffeine that'll work for me as well. You do something called Talk Sporty to me, and I want to give you a platform to speak about that a little bit. I run a different kind of format here in the conversations and what we're doing with Baltimore Positive and extending the conversation. And even on my birthday on Monday night, the Ravens had their Purple Night, where it was a conversation about ladies and introduction to sports and introduction to football and conversation and business. And I know that you've created a very interesting side business. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about it. I know your website's under construction. We'll tell them about that. But I know your business is, you've been doing this a long time.
I have. I've been, Talk Sporty to me has been around for 10 years. And I am an expert in one-on-one communication skills because of what I do in the locker room with athletes. And I've translated those to business. And so I go in and work with corporate clients and, help them improve their productivity, their communication effectiveness, and really just have the confidence to have the conversations that we know we should be having during the course of the day, but might defer to text messaging or email, which loses something in the translation. So that's what I do. I've got a leadership series that happens every month. It is online, and you can type in questions and engage that way, and all of that will go on the new website in a couple of weeks, and that is talksportytome.com.
See, I stink because, I should be doing this on, a video Skype with you because I could do that if I wanted to, but, I just haven't, and that would make it more face-to-face for us, right?
Well, it could, yes. Obviously it would be face-to-face. But
if you were going to make a business meeting, we would do it. We would do it on a video call, right? That would be more personal than a phone call, and certainly far more personal than an email or a chat room or something like that, right?
Yeah, but what we've done here is we've gotten different touch points so that we can communicate. It took you 2 texts for me to respond to one because I kind of dropped the ball last week. That was just an additional touch point. It's called relationship building, Nestor. We got this.
It's because you were distracted in Cleveland because it's such a great place. So
yes, at the bar while watching games.
Well, right. That's exactly what I was doing on Saturday.
That was game prep. That was game prep I was doing.
Listen, after this, I'm on bye week next week. We're going to run some Baltimore Positive, and I have sworn to my wife we're not going to watch any of the World Series from Hawaii because the Nationals and the Yankees are probably going to be in it, and I don't need to watch all that. How about that?
Yeah, I do believe the Astros are up.
I'll be talking beachy
today,
and
so,
poi to
yeah.
me and jumping in and out of volcanoes and craters and stuff. So, hey, Viva Seattle before bye week. Jen, I've got senioritis, and I'm proud of it. It's great to have you on. I always look forward to seeing you. We'll see you somewhere in Seattle on Sunday. I'll be the guy with Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey still ringing in my ears on Sunday morning, all right?
Perfect. Enjoy it. I will see you on the sideline.
We will not get fooled again. The Seattle Seahawks and the Ravens on Sunday. Luke Jones is in Owings Mills all week long. Get you ready. Get on the WNST text service. You'll be ready for the game this weekend for all breaking news, injuries, what's going on with Jimmy Smith, what's going on with Peanut, how we doing, icing him down, getting ready. We got Bradley Bozeman up at Greenmount Station on Tuesday night, swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, talking about all things anti-bullying with his wife, Nikki. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So good message coming your way. Baltimore Positive coming your way next week. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking poi and Baltimore sports.